So, I wanted to do a sort of lore recap for Xavier and Raphael before we get into the new edition of main story. So I put together a little bit of a presentation. It's not fancy. I didn't have time to make it fancy. And y'all know I love Canva and making PowerPoints, but I didn't have a chance to do that this time. I will also preface and say that I am not super well versed in the lore of this game. There is still a lot I am learning. There's still a lot of myth cards, 5-star cards that I haven't played. There's so much reading I haven't done. The notes I've taken, the little bit of research that I've done is very surface level to kind of catch us up before we continue on with their stories from where we left off, which was specifically Prologue to Tomorrow was the last time we really saw Xavier and Raphael in main story in particular. So we're going to start with Xavier because the new main story update to our yesterday starts off with Xavier. His story, I feel like, is both fairly linear and also kind of convoluted. There's a lot to it because it deals with time loops and time travel, and it became a lot more clear as I was putting this together, but it was still kind of all over the place. I am going to kind of break this into two, where we're going to talk about sort of a past Xavier and our present Xavier. I'm not really going to go too in depth with any of their myths for Xavier or Raph, but kind of just touch on some key points. Specifically for Xavier, he does come from the planet Philos. Now, Philos is the planet where humans go to when Earth is dying as a planet. So Philos is far into the future, far into the Love and Deepspace's Earth's future, when Earth is run over by wanderers and it's dying and it's uninhabitable, and they move to another planet. They go to Philos. Xavier is the crown prince, or he used to be the crown prince of Philos. We find this out in a myth card we haven't watched yet. We find out in the myth card that's posted here, so we did watch this one, that Philos has a dead core. And the way that Philos stays alive as a planet is through sacrifice. Now, specifically, MC has an ether core in her heart. We know this. This is the main story, right? So she sacrifices herself to keep the planet alive. Every single reincarnation of her, she sacrifices herself. Now, imagine this happens. And you live on a planet where you age very slowly, like you live for a very long time. So this man is watching the one he loves sacrifice herself over and over again. Keep that in your brain, because that is heartbreaking. In one version of our MC, she becomes the queen after Xavier is abdicated from the throne, so he kind of is unfit, he steps down, kind of deal. So he and a small group of other colleagues, they call themselves the Backtrackers, they decide to go on a voyage to try to find a way for the humans on Philos to go back to Earth. They're gonna kind of do a little bit of deep space time travel to try to figure things out, right? And the Backtrackers have some names that become pretty notable in the story. Jeremiah is a character that is reoccurring. I will talk about him later. We have, I think it's Soren. I will also talk about him later. He's a very notable character. And then we have Isaiah, who is very mysterious, and we don't know a lot about him, but I'll also talk about him later. Unfortunately, they traveled back 214 years before the point that they were supposed to actually go to, and that's where Xavier finds and the backtrackers find themselves in MC's current timeline of Earth. They've been trying to repair their spaceship since. It hasn't really happened. I will get back to the backtrackers in a bit. Okay? So we first meet Xavier at the very beginning of the game. So he's the first love interest that we meet. MC is on her first mission under the Hunters organization, and she comes across this mysterious hunter who has fallen asleep in an abandoned warehouse. You know, she tries to call for help. He tells her, shush, says, quiet. Wanderers show up. They fight the Wanderers. He has a light evil that she makes note of. And he asks her to resonate with him. So then big light shines bright, kills all the Wanderers. Whenever they kill Wanderers, they get protocors. And the Hunters organization, or Hunters Association, my bad. Hunters Association wants to keep those protocors. Xavier's destroying them, which is, MC kind of makes a note of that because that's odd. That seems very odd. Do note he has a collar here, because I will bring that up later. So the next time MC runs into Xavier is on another mission, this time a forest. And again, she's been abandoned by her hunter's partner, so she's there alone, and she comes across Xavier. She sees him sort of fight this dragon-like wanderer, gets a hold of its core, destroys it yet again. And they do find a stone formation. Xavier claims it's able to resurrect a highly destructive wanderer with modified protocors. So later, back at the association, I don't have a photo for this. She runs into Xavier for a third time. This time he's at the association, and he is one of the newer hunters working there in her department even. He and MC are discussing modified protocors with their captain, Jenna, and during this debrief is when she first hears about Anakinus, and they are suspecting that they and the leader Silas, and I believe they do mention Silas in that conversation. They suspect that they are behind the modified protocors. Xavier tries to warn her away from getting involved with Anakinus, but she's very adamant of like, no, I want to be in on this. I want to find answers. So he's like, okay, well then let me be your hunter partner for this. Let me help you at least if you're not going to not do this. So there's one day at the Hunters Association, some of MC's colleagues start discussing this mysterious hunter called Lumiere, who's been seen in the N109 zone, has been destroying protocors. MC becomes more and more interested about the N109 zone at this time. Now, the N109 zone is an area, think it's a lawless area, basically. So this is where we know where Anakinus' base is, as well as this is where Silas lives. A lot of dark trades are there, a lot of just shady shit, a lot of criminals, a lot of crime, not really much people fighting crime there. So the fact that Lumiere is there has been catching people's attention. At one point, she runs into Xavier. She does find out that they're neighbors. Specifically, Xavier is her upstairs neighbor in the same apartment complex. Because she shares that she is interested in trying to get into the N109 zone, even though Xavier is not a fan, he does give her tips, which is wild because why would Xavier know how to get into the N109 zone? Because spoiler alert, he's Lumiere. I don't think this mask is really hiding anything. Granted, it's better than whatever Raph's mask was in his prologue to Tomorrow, that concept of a mask. I guess this hides a little bit more identity. So in Xavier's prologue to Tomorrow, we find out that some of the backtrackers, that group of people that traveled with him to try to find a way to save Philos's people, right? Some of them have gone mad. Okay, so Jeremiah is still a very good friend, very good ally. He is still a very prominent side character in main story, and he does interact with Xavier and MC. Some backtrackers have turned into wanderers themselves. Some have turned to working with evil organizations like Ever. So we're kind of finding out that they've sort of split. Specifically, in this storyline, and now remember, the prologue to tomorrow, we're trying to find ether core fragments, right? So for Xavier's, they decide to go undercover as students to a college. Come to find out that I believe the class president had disguised himself, changed his appearance and voice and everything, and it's actually Soren, one of the previous backtrackers. Every wanderer encounter that Xavier and MC had come up against together in main story was because of Soren. There is another ex-teammate, Isaiah, who doesn't have a sprite, doesn't have a I think he does have a voice. He does have a voice, but he doesn't have a sprite. But he's mentioned a lot. And I was reading some things, and a lot of it I think is speculation. It has been mentioned that he betrayed Xavier, but it's also been mentioned that Xavier was a part of the cause to Isaiah's death. But there's also speculation that Isaiah is alive and working with Ever, and that he might be the reason for the explosion at MC's childhood home, the explosion that had Grandma and Caleb in it. So I am not super well versed in that. I haven't looked into that. I believe that's probably just a lot of reading I haven't done yet. One other thing I want to point out that I had pointed out before is there is this collar around Xavier's neck. Now, I bring this up because I don't think we've gotten a definitive answer on what this is yet. I used to think that it was sort of a power suppressor. Like like some sort of organization has this on him so he can't use his full powers. But now, after doing some reading, I think it might actually be like an indicator of how much evil he's used. And red means he's like over exerting himself. Now, remember, he is Hunter Xavier by day and Lumiere by night. So the man can fall asleep standing up. He is perpetually always tired. Because when does he ever rest? He's going to the N109 zone, taking on these bounties to kill wanderers, and not taking prizes. He's just destroying protocors. Like that's like he's not taking any of the bounties. He's not taking any of the rewards. He's just doing them. So, but he's doing that at night while still being Xavier the Hunter. Just a little sleepy boy. Exactly, Kak, right? This makes me think, and I replayed so I could get the screenshots from when we first meet Xavier. I did replay that chapter, and we do see the collar when it's blue, and then we see the collar when it's red, all in like one scene where it's blue and then he uses his evil and then it immediately turns red. So it kind of just makes me think that it's just an indicator of how much evil he's used. But this does come up in the main story trailer. In the trailer to 2 Hour Yesterday. So I wanted to bring it up just in case maybe we get more of an answer about it. I'm not entirely sure, but we shall see. Okay, so now that we've covered a lot of Xavier's, and again, I know I'm missing like probably some other information. I think this covers the main gist of what we needed. We're gonna get into Raf. Now, some of Raf's lore is fresh because we just played the prologue to Tomorrow, and that kind of connected some dots for me that I never thought to connect before. So we're going to get into Raf. So to kind of start, obviously Raf has his own myths. We do have the sea god myth. We have a myth of him in Lemuria. But specifically, this is a whole story where when we saw this in the Prologue to Tomorrow, he gets washed up onto shore. He gets stuck. And a young MC saves him. And they promise to meet at that spot again, I think every year, the same time every year. However, the young MC gets a really bad fever where she loses her memory. So she never sees him again. So technically, she had already met him before but did not remember. Now, when we first meet Raphael, it's in the beginning of main story as well. It's something really silly. So MC is like playing a children's fish catching game, and she runs into Raphael there. They have a friendly exchange, but he kind of like walks away as she's in mid-sentence. And she's kind of like, what a rude tourist. She's like looking at him like, what the fuck? Like, we were having a conversation and you walk away. At the Hunters Association, MC gets, or one of her early missions is to investigate the sudden erratic behavior of the famous art collector Raymond. While investigating his home, MC finds a strange painting that causes hallucinations, which is one of the causes for Raymond's erratic behavior. So it's come to find out the painting is connected to the artist, Raphael, who is the one who created and sold it to Raymond. Now, I would like to point out something here, because this is wild, a wild fossil to have in your home. That is, in fact, a Lemurian. The skeleton of a Lemurian. That is important to point out. Okay. Also, the red clouds here for like because the painting causes hallucinations, that is also very important to point out. Okay. MC decides to head over to Mo Art Studio, which is where Raphael works and where he lives. And upon meeting him, she immediately recognizes him as the rude tourist from before. When she tries to question him, I mean, y'all, we've seen Raph. He doesn't take things seriously sometimes. He'll opt to tease. He'll say a lot of non-answers. He won't cooperate. But eventually, he does reveal that the paint used in the painting was made from red coral stone, which is a rare material. He demonstrates how the stone may cause hallucinations by dropping a small drop of his own blood on a sample of the coral stone. So then at this point, wanderers randomly appear and they fight, and that's part of the game. He's so impressed by her skills that he asks to hire her as his bodyguard. Now, at first, she's insulted because she's like, I'm a fucking hunter from the association, and you're asking me to be your bodyguard? He kind of sweetens her up by offering to pay her handsomely, while also offering to cooperate with the investigation and help out and show her where he gets his red coral from, or the red coral stone from. So that's where we go to Hat Island. It's kind of like a silly, it's kind of cute. They go on a boat. It's a very shacky boat. They row, but they end up getting stranded on the island because the boat capsizes on the way there. So they're like on this island. There's like a stray cat. He hates cats. It's really cute, honestly, the exchange. Obviously, you guessed it. Who shows up? Wanderers. So wanderers show up. Very specifically, there's like this big boy that emerges from the ocean, causing like this wave to kind of roll towards them, and Raph uses his fire evil to stop the water. It's like a whole thing. So they decide, to fight. The the monster that's in the water. So they go into the sea. Crazy. Mid-fight, MC, however, she passes out and begins to sink into the sea. So Raph was originally going to ignore her to keep fighting the Wanderer, but an unconscious MC subconsciously calls out to him for help. And there's a mark on his chest, or a sort of like red glow on his chest, which is compelling him to obey, and he turns to save her and brings her back to shore. He ends up transforming into a merman to do so, but this is not something that MC sees, this is something that we as the player see. Remember how I mentioned that MC wants to get into the N109 zone? Now, who is someone that she knows that has definitely done deals with people from the N109 zone, let alone has been to the N109 zone? So, she asks Raph to help her, and they come up with a plan. Now, at first, this plan, I thought he was betraying her, but it truly was just all part of the plan. What she wanted to do was act as bait to get taken into the N109 zone by Anakinis. She did not really have a foolproof plan. She just had a plan. She had a will. And then she found a way. Basically, Raph gives her this drink. She drinks it. She gets dizzy, passes out. And Raph sort of gives her away in sorts. Like, she is a bounty. That's why I kind of added that whole, like, do you really think they can handle the prey I caught? Just to kind of like mask it so it's not like a hunter is trying to get into the N109 zone. Like, no, I captured a hunter that is special and is valuable for the N109 zone. This is when she gets taken to the N109 zone by some criminals, and then that's when Silas intercepts, and then that's our introduction to Silas. I wanted to kind of go back into Raph's Prologue to Tomorrow chapter, which again we watched last night. So we find out the red coral stones that he uses in the painting, they're red due to being soaked in the blood of slain Lemurians. And this is all because of humans? Shocker. Humans ruin everything. So there is a sort of hatred towards the human race in general. This kind of connected dots with when he takes on the sea god's powers, and the sea god starts talking and, you know, calls MC a traitor. It's because of this hatred towards the, like, betrayal of the humans and the humans destroying Lemuria. We haven't watched Raph's sea god myth yet. I do have it, so it is in our queue to watch, and maybe after we play this main story we'll watch it. Basically, kind of blanket without super spoilers, obviously, Raph was a sea god in a past life, and MC was the sea god's bride. The gist of what I have is, because of the connection between the sea god and his bride, the sea god cannot disobey his bride's orders. So, we see this when she subconsciously calls for help, and his heart kind of glows red, and he saves her. We see that again in the Prologue to Tomorrow chapter, where she's trying to tell Raph to snap out of it, and then in some sort of instinct, there's no way she knew to do this. It was very much an instinct, not thinking fashion. She starts saying, "With the authority granted to me by the Ocean's Covenant, I order you to snap out of it," I think is what she says. And to which he does. I feel like it's really important to point out, because Keck, you know, you just said, I want to know where Raymond got the skeleton and why he keeps it on display in his home. So, like, now I did point out that these hallucinations are caused by a coral stone that is red because of, you know, caused by the blood of a Lemurian, a slain Lemurian, right? He has a grudge towards humans. Raymond has the skeleton of a Lemurian. What I didn't mention is not only was Raymond's behavior erratic, the hallucinations do cause humans to turn erratic and suicidal. So the man did that on purpose. So Fishy was intentional with that. That's about it. That's the recap that I got for you. Hopefully this helps both of us.